Weddings are emotional. That's what I kept telling myself every time I felt that stupid knot in my chest tighten. But it wasn't the bride's walk down the aisle or the heartfelt vows that had me messed up that day. It was Liam. Liam, my best friend since high school. Liam, who looked unfairly good in a black suit. Liam, who caught the garter at the reception and turned to me with a grin like he'd just won the lottery. We weren't even supposed to be there, technically. The bride was his cousin, and I was his +1. Not in the way I wished, of course. Just his best buddy, as he introduced me to at least 6 of his relatives. I played the part, laughing, nodding, shaking hands, all while trying to ignore the sinking realization that being near him lately had gotten harder and harder. He didn't know how I felt. Not really. Or maybe he did and chose to pretend he didn't. Either way, I kept it buried. Until that night. The reception was in full swing when everything started blurring around the edges. The DJ was spinning early 2000s pop. The lights were warm and low, and the open bar was the kind of dangerous you don't realize is dangerous until it's too late. Liam and I had been drinking steadily since dinner. He kept saying, "We've earned it." Survived another year of adulthood, and I kept clinking my glass against his like it didn't matter, like I wasn't spiraling inside every time his fingers brushed mine. "All right, one more," he said, stumbling slightly as he leaned across the bar. "Then we dance." I raised an eyebrow. "You dance now?" "I do everything now," he slurred, handing me another whiskey sour. "New year, new Liam." That made me laugh, but I took the drink. We danced. Correction. We moved vaguely in rhythm, bumping into each other, laughing too hard, sweaty, and way too close. At one point, his arm looped around my shoulders and he leaned into me, mouth at my ear. "You smell good," he said, and I swear my knees almost gave out. I chalked it up to the booze. He was drunk. I was drunk. None of this meant anything. But then he didn't let go. Not even after the song ended. His hand lingered at my side, fingers pressing slightly into the fabric of my shirt. His eyes met mine, and for a second, just a second, I thought he might kiss me. He didn't. Instead, he said, "Come back to my room. I'm gonna crash." "Right now?" I asked, trying to sound casual. My voice came out hoarse. He nodded. "Too loud out here. My head's spinning. You coming?" I could have said no. I should have. But instead, I followed him down the hallway of the venue's boutique inn, my heart hammering like I was 17 again and sneaking into someone's basement party. Liam's room was on the 2nd floor. He opened the door, tossed his jacket on a chair, then collapsed face first onto the bed with a groan. "Water," he mumbled. "Need water." I grabbed the glass on the nightstand, filled it from the pitcher, and handed it to him. He sat up slowly, taking a sip, his eyes glassy but focused. He looked at me like I was something he hadn't quite figured out yet. "You're a good guy," he said suddenly. "Like, you've always been good to me." I sat on the edge of the bed, trying not to let my fingers tremble. "That's what friends are for, right?" "Yeah, but not everyone would put up with me." He reached out, fingers grazing my wrist. "You've always stuck around." I looked down at his hand on my skin. He didn't move it. I didn't either. "I stick around because I want to," I said. Liam nodded slowly. "You ever think about stuff? Like if we'd met later, or differently?" I froze. "What do you mean?" I asked. But he didn't answer. He just looked at me. Really looked at me. His eyes dropped to my mouth, lingered there for a second too long, and then flicked back up. And I couldn't breathe. There was a pause. Not the kind that happens when someone forgets what they were saying, but the kind that happens when everything's about to change, when the room gets too quiet and every second feels like a dare. Liam was still looking at me. Still close. Still drunk. But not that drunk. I could tell. The buzz had softened him, but he wasn't out of it. His hand was still on my wrist, thumb brushing idly across my skin like he didn't even realize he was doing it. "You're staring," I said quietly, trying to keep my voice from shaking. He blinked like he just realized how long it had been. "Yeah," he said. "Just that. No apology. No explanation." I swallowed. "Why?" Liam shrugged slowly, his eyes not leaving mine. "I don't know, man. Just thinking, I guess. You ever get that feeling where something's been sitting right in front of you for years, and you suddenly see it completely differently?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. My brain was doing somersaults trying to figure out what he meant, if he meant what I thought he meant. If this was just drunk talk, or if there was something real threading through his voice. "I used to think you had a crush on me," he said suddenly. My body went still. "Used to?" My mind raced. "I mean," he scratched the back of his neck. "I figured. Back in college, there were moments, I don't know. You never said anything." I didn't want to mess things up. I exhaled through my nose, staring at the carpet. "You saying this now is kind of messing things up, you know." "Is it?" he asked, a little too softly. I looked at him again. He didn't look amused or cocky like he usually did when he was pushing my buttons. He looked unsure. Nervous even. Like he was afraid of the answer. "What are you trying to say, Liam?" I asked. He opened his mouth, then closed it. His fingers finally slipped away from my wrist, leaving a trail of warmth in their absence. He leaned back slightly, his shoulders hitting the headboard, his whole posture suddenly guarded. "Forget it," he said. "I'm drunk, talking too much." I didn't let it go. "No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to dangle that in front of me and then retreat." He looked at me again, his face caught somewhere between regret and stubbornness. "I'm just saying, maybe I've thought about it too. About you. About us." The air left my lungs. "Since when?" He didn't answer right away, just ran a hand down his face. "I don't know. It's not like a date on the calendar, all right? It's just moments. Random moments that stuck." "Like tonight?" "Yeah," he said, meeting my eyes. "Like tonight. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of something, standing on the ledge of a decision that had no safety net." "Liam," I said, slower now, "are you messing with me?" "No," he said quickly. "No, I wouldn't do that. Not to you." My heart was pounding. This was everything I'd ever wanted him to say. And yet, now that I was here, now that the words were hanging in the air, I didn't know what to do with them. "You don't just try this kind of thing out like it's a pair of shoes," I said. "I'm not trying it out," he shot back, suddenly serious. "I'm just trying to be honest. For once." We sat in silence, the hum of the air vent the only sound in the room. Finally, he said, "You can crash here if you want." "On the bed?" He looked over. "I'm not gonna jump you, if that's what you're worried about." That wasn't what I was worried about. Not even close. "All right," I said, "but only because I'm too drunk to walk back to the guest house." He grinned faintly. "Deal." We both kicked off our shoes and lay back, fully clothed, not touching. The silence was thick, heavy. I stared up at the ceiling, my heart still hammering. A foot of mattress between us felt like a canyon. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what could happen. But I knew one thing. I wouldn't be sleeping much that night. I don't know how long I lay there, staring at the ceiling like it had answers. Liam was quiet beside me, his breathing steady but not deep enough to be sleep. We weren't touching, but I could feel him. Feel the heat radiating from his body, the quiet tension in the space between us. It wasn't like we hadn't shared a bed before. College road trips, sleepovers, lazy Sundays after late nights out. But this was different. This time, everything unsaid had been spoken, or at least hinted at, and we were both lying in the aftermath of it. That kind of honesty doesn't go back in the box. "You awake?" he asked suddenly, voice low. "Yeah." He was quiet for a moment. "You mad at me?" "No." Another pause. "You sure?" "I don't know what I am, to be honest." He let out a breath. "Fair." I turned my head and looked at him. He was lying on his side now, facing me, his eyes visible in the faint glow from the hallway light bleeding under the door. He looked tired. or maybe just nervous. "What are you thinking?" I asked. He hesitated, then gave the smallest shrug. "I'm thinking I've probably screwed things up." "You didn't screw anything up." "Feels like I did." "You just said some stuff. It's not a crime to be confused." He smiled faintly. "Yeah, but it's kind of your thing. Being confused around you." That caught me off guard. "What does that mean?" "It means I've been thinking about this for a while, and I don't know what it makes me. I don't even know if it's about guys in general or just you." That did something to me. It shouldn't have, but it did. My stomach flipped, and I suddenly felt warm all over. "I'm not asking you to label it," I said. "I know, I want to figure it out without losing you." My chest tightened. "You're not going to lose me." Liam's gaze dropped to my lips for a second. It was subtle, but I saw it. And then, like he couldn't help himself, he inched a little closer. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Yeah." "Have you ever wanted to kiss me?" The air left my lungs. I wasn't expecting that. Not out loud, not from him. I could have lied, could have laughed it off, but I was done pretending. "Yeah," I said. "More times than I can count." He didn't look surprised, just nodded slightly like some part of him already knew. Then he whispered, "What if I want to try?" I didn't move, didn't speak, just waited to see if he'd actually do it. And then, slowly, carefully, Liam leaned in. It wasn't a dramatic kiss. No music swelling in the background. Just the softest brush of his lips against mine. Tentative, questioning, like he was asking a second time with his mouth. I kissed him back. Gently, briefly, just long enough to feel the truth of it. When we pulled apart, he looked stunned. Not scared, just overwhelmed. "Okay," he said quietly, "so that's real." "Yeah." He let out a breath and dropped onto his back again, staring at the ceiling. "Shit. You good?" I asked. "Honestly? No idea, but I'm not panicking, if that means anything." I smiled to myself. It means something. We didn't talk much after that. Just lay there in the dark, not touching, but different now. The air had shifted. Something had cracked open, and neither of us had the words yet to explain what we'd found inside. But it wasn't nothing, and I think we both knew it. I didn't sleep. Or maybe I did. For 20 minutes here and there, drifting in and out with that kind of restless haze that feels more like waiting than resting. Liam didn't move all night. He stayed on his side of the bed, breathing steady, silent, like he was deep in thought even while unconscious. But I wasn't. I was wide awake, staring into the dark, replaying the kiss again and again in my head. It had been small, barely anything, but it was enough to undo me. Enough to stir up everything I'd worked so hard to bury. And now it was out, between us, crackling in the silence. What the hell did it mean? I kept wondering if he'd remember it in the morning, if he'd regret it, if he'd pretend it didn't happen, if I was going to lose him over it. When the first light broke through the edges of the curtain, I rolled onto my side and watched him. He was still asleep, his lips slightly parted, his hair a mess from the pillow. I'd seen Liam like this 100 times, crashed out after road trips or study marathons or too many beers during game nights. But this was different. I was looking at him like someone I might actually get to have, not just someone I had to want in secret. It was terrifying. He stirred around 7 a.m., eyes fluttering open slowly. I turned my head, pretending to still be asleep, just to avoid that first awkward moment. But then I heard him say, groggy and scratchy, "You awake?" I didn't answer right away. He shifted closer. "Hey," he said again, quieter. I finally opened my eyes. He was looking right at me, a faint crease between his eyebrows. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, you?" He ran a hand over his face. "Hungover. But yeah, I think so." We sat there for a moment, the quiet hanging between us. "You remember last night?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Liam gave a dry laugh. "I didn't drink that much." "Yeah, I remember." My throat tightened. "You regret it?" He hesitated. No, I don't think I do. You don't think? He rolled onto his back, staring at the ceiling. I've never done that before, okay? With a guy. I've never even wanted to. I nodded slowly. Right. But last night, that wasn't a drunk impulse. Not really. I turned toward him. Then, what was it? He looked over at me. I don't know. Something I've been thinking about for a while. Something I haven't been able to say out loud. Well, I said, you kissed me. That's pretty loud. He cracked a small smile. Yeah. Guess I did. More silence. Then he asked, was it bad? I blinked. What? The kiss. Was it bad? I laughed, despite myself. No, it wasn't bad. Okay, good, because I think I might want to try that again. When I'm not seeing 3 of you. I stared at him. You're serious? I think I am. That terrified me even more than the kiss. Because if he was serious, if this wasn't just curiosity or confusion, then everything could actually change. He sat up, running his hand through his hair. I need coffee, and maybe some food that isn't wedding cake. I followed him as he stood and stretched, muscles rippling under his t-shirt. My best friend, my crush. Now the guy who had kissed me and maybe wanted to do it again. As we walked down the hallway toward the breakfast buffet, he turned to me and said, by the way, I meant what I said last night, about thinking about you. I swallowed. Okay, I don't know what happens next, he said, but I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen. I looked at him, heart racing. Good, I said. Me either. Breakfast at the inn was a strange combination of normal and not. Liam piled his plate with scrambled eggs and bacon like nothing had happened. But I caught him glancing at me over his coffee cup, his eyes lingering a beat too long, his smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth like he was waiting for me to say something first. I didn't. Not yet. We found a quiet table near the window, the morning sun streaming in and catching the tiny dust specks in the air. Everything felt a little too bright, like we were exposed, even though nobody was paying us any attention. So, Liam said between bites, that happened. I raised an eyebrow. We're still doing this? I mean, we kinda have to, right? Or we could pretend it was a weird dream. You wanna pretend? He asked, voice low now, because I don't. I paused, my fork halfway to my mouth. No, I don't wanna pretend. He nodded, looking satisfied, then quietly, good. There were still people in tuxedos and dresses from the night before, wandering through the dining room, some looking worse for wear. At another table, the bride's cousin, who had been flirting with me during cocktail hour, gave me a little wave. Liam noticed. You're popular, he said. Don't start. He sipped his coffee. So what do we call this? This? I asked. He leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on me. Yeah, last night, the kiss, the whole thing. I don't know, a moment? His jaw tightened slightly. Just a moment? I sighed. Liam, I don't know. I've liked you for years. I buried it because I thought you'd never see me that way. I didn't, he said quickly, like he hated how it sounded. I mean, I didn't think I did. Until recently. What changed? He looked out the window, like the trees would give him an answer. Then he said, You started pulling away. I blinked. What? A few months ago, you got distant, I noticed. At first I thought you were just busy, but it felt like you were trying to unattach yourself from me. And it made me, I don't know, pay attention in a different way. I didn't know what to say to that. He kept going. I started thinking about you more than I probably should have. Started wondering what it would be like if you weren't just my best friend. I stared at him. Liam, he finally looked back at me. Yeah? If you're just figuring this out, I need you to be sure. Like really sure. Because I'm not just some experiment for you to try out and then walk away from. I know, he said instantly. I swear I know that. This isn't casual for me. That hit harder than it should have. It made my chest ache in that sweet, scary way you feel right before letting someone in. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Let's take it slow. Let's not make it weird. But I want to try, with you. I nodded, still unsure whether I should be smiling or screaming into a pillow. He smiled. You want to skip the group brunch thing later? And do what? He shrugged. Hang out in my room, talk, maybe kiss you again. I laughed, finally. You're really leaning into this, huh? I've always been the dive-in headfirst type, he said, grinning. You know that. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw it. Not just the usual charm, not just the easy confidence. There was something else now. Something honest. Something he hadn't let me see before. All right, I said. Let's see where this goes. We skipped the group brunch. Liam texted someone, I think his cousin, an excuse about being wrecked from last night and needing to chill for a bit. Nobody questioned it. That's the benefit of being the life of the party. When you disappear, people assume you're just recovering from your own legend. We made our way back to his room, not talking much at first. It wasn't awkward, just loaded. Every step echoed with everything we hadn't said last night, and everything we were about to say now. As soon as the door clicked shut behind us, Liam let out a breath like he'd been holding it since breakfast. So, he said, turning to face me. Privacy. Yeah. He scratched the back of his neck, a nervous habit I'd seen 100 times, but it felt different now. He wasn't hiding behind jokes or distractions. He was trying to show up, and I could see how much effort that took. Come sit, he said, gesturing toward the bed. He sat next to me, close but not too close. A pause. You really liked me that long? He asked, voice low. I looked down at my hands. Yeah. Why didn't you say anything? I shrugged. Because you liked girls. Because I didn't want to lose you. Because I was scared shitless, honestly. He nodded, like he understood more than he let on. I've never had a guy like me before. Not someone I actually liked back. My heart jumped at that. You like me? He gave me a look. I kissed you, didn't I? You also called me bro for the last 5 years. That sends mixed signals. He laughed, and the sound was warm, grounding. Okay, he said. Then let me say it clearly. I like you. I looked at him, trying to memorize the way he said that. Not as a joke, not as a maybe, but like a fact he was finally ready to accept. I like you too, I said. He smiled, then turned serious again. I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to do it with you. Figure it out. Is that enough for now? I didn't even need to think. Yeah, it's enough. A long silence stretched between us. But this time, it felt peaceful. Then he leaned in again, slower this time. No hesitation. No testing the waters. And I met him halfway. This kiss was different. Less uncertain, more real. His hand slid to the back of my neck, his thumb brushing lightly over my skin. I melted into it, letting myself feel it without overthinking it for once. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't about proving anything. It was just us. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. That okay? He asked, breathless. Yeah, I whispered. Better than okay. He flopped back onto the bed, dragging me down with him. Holy shit, he muttered. What the hell are we doing? I laughed. Whatever this is, I'm not complaining. We lay there in the quiet, limbs barely touching, hearts pounding somewhere near the same rhythm. I didn't need a label. I didn't need a perfect plan. I just needed this, him, here, real, and the chance to finally see what it could become. We stayed like that for a while, half draped over each other, bodies close, but not tense, just warm. Present. Liam's fingers were laced loosely with mine, resting on his stomach. Every now and then he'd shift slightly, and I'd feel his thumb graze my skin. It was such a small thing, but it sent this quiet rush through me every time, like my body was still catching up to the fact that this was actually happening. "You ever think," he said suddenly, "about how different things would have been if one of us said something earlier?" "All the time," I said honestly. He tilted his head to look at me. "Why didn't you?" I looked at the ceiling. "Because I didn't want to risk what we had. I was scared it'd make you uncomfortable, or worse, make you leave." He was quiet for a beat. "Then, would have been a shame, because I was already halfway to falling for you back then and didn't even realize it." That made my heart clench. "You're serious?" I asked. He turned toward me, his expression soft. "Yeah, I just thought it was friendship. Really intense, really good friendship. I told myself the reason I liked having you around so much was because you got me. Because you were easy to be with. But that wasn't it." "What was it?" "You," he said. "It was always just you." God. I had to look away for a second. It was too much. But in the best way. Like finally being seen after years of trying to make yourself invisible. "Does it feel weird to you?" I asked. "That this is happening?" He shook his head. "Feels overdue." We didn't talk much after that, just curled up a little closer. His arm draped over my chest, the side of his leg brushing mine. There wasn't any pressure. No rush. Just this strange, quiet certainty building between us. Later, when the sun was lower and voices started drifting down the hallway again, I sat up and stretched. "We should probably show our faces before people think we ran off together." Liam smirked. "Isn't that what happened? I'm not trying to be the subject of family gossip before we've even had a second date." He raised an eyebrow. "Are we doing dates now?" I looked at him. "Do you want to?" He paused, like he was actually giving it thought, then nodded. "Yeah, I do." "Then yeah," I said. "We're doing dates." He got up, moving around the room looking for his shoes. "Well, first date's easy. Recovery lunch followed by making fun of everyone else who got too drunk to remember anything." "I didn't forget anything," I said, standing. He looked at me, face serious. "Good, because I want you to remember this." He walked over and kissed me again. Light, unhurried, like we had all the time in the world. We finally left the room around 1 p.m., a full hour after brunch had ended, and just in time to catch the last of the cleanup in the reception hall. People were still hanging around, half-sober cousins collecting plates, the bride's mom rounding up flower vases like trophies, and the DJ trying to pack up with a hangover written all over his face. Liam and I slipped in quietly, side by side but not touching. Not in public, not yet. There was a rhythm we'd been following for years. Best friends, inseparable, just the two of us, and we weren't ready to flip that switch in front of everyone. But still, there was a difference in the way we looked at each other, in the way our arms occasionally brushed, and neither of us moved away. "You guys vanished last night," his cousin Emily said as we passed the buffet table. "Thought you passed out in a ditch." "Almost," Liam said with a grin. "But I found somewhere better to crash." She laughed, not noticing how his eyes flicked toward me. Nobody else noticed either. Not yet, but we noticed. Later, after everyone had filtered out and the rented chairs had been stacked, we walked the trail behind the venue. It led to a quiet overlook, the kind of hidden spot we used to sneak off to during family events just to talk. I stood at the edge of the hill, looking out at the mountains in the distance, and felt Liam step up behind me. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there. Then he said, "So what happens when we go home?" That was the real question, wasn't it? Back to normal life. Back to separate apartments and work and routines that had never made space for whatever this was becoming. I looked over at him. "We keep doing this, if you want to." "I want to." "Then we figure it out." He nodded, lips pressed into a thoughtful line. "I'm not gonna freak out," he said. "Just so you know, about any of this, about people finding out, about how it looks. It's you. That makes it easier." That might have been the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. "I'm not asking you to change who you are," I said. "I just want you to be real with me." "I've never been more real," he said. "We didn't kiss this time. We didn't have to. We just stood there, shoulder to shoulder, looking out at the horizon like something had finally clicked into place. And maybe it had, because there, in the middle of someone else's wedding weekend, something unexpected happened. We found the start of our own story. Not loud, not dramatic, just real.